show that takes a behind the scenes look into the gritty, non glamorous life of aircraft maintenance. We share some laughs, impart some wisdom, all in hopes of giving you that split seconds relief in your day that can hopefully prevent a mishap. I am your co host, Six,
I'm MVP.
and our third host, Shoreline, is silently in the back, monitoring our audio, making sure our faces stay fit for radio. uh, Speaking of how I said in the introduction about showing a behind the scenes life of the gritty stuff that aircraft mechanics go through, what we've been seeing, or at least lack of seeing in recent months, is just there's been a very vocal push about aviation, both good and bad. And the sad part of majority of the good stuff is the lack of aircraft maintenance. And I'll give an example for one. Like in the past couple of months, we've seen very big pushes about aviation initiatives, big ups in aviation, that's opening up more doors for pilot programs, for jobs and stuff like that. But a majority of the jobs that they've mentioned were mostly like up there jobs, like stuff like you don't just grab from the get go. You kind of have to have some kind of history with aviation, like management or quality assurance or something to that effect, right? White collar stuff, if you catch my drift. But when it comes to like trades related stuff like aircraft maintenance or like some type of technician or engineer, it's hardly mentioned, if at all. And that kind of put me in the spot. Like I was legitimately mad for a good while. and and the reason why I felt that way is because, like, if there's such a big push for aviation to be in the spotlight, why isn't it the entire spectrum? You know what
Right.
I
Why
mean?
not all levels of aviation?
Right. And so, like, here on the show, we obviously talk about aircraft mechanic specific stuff, but like if there's a need or a gap, we try to do our best to help push that along, like pilot health or pilot mental health, or the lack of air traffic control, or women in aviation as a whole, right? So we do our best. We're not the greatest, but we do our best to to try to help fill that spectrum, to capture it all as best we can, for the people who actually listen to this show, because we feel like one helps the other kind of thing. The only way you're going to get through is if we all band together and help each other along. And here we
Yeah, and
are.
you gotta talk about it, right? You got to
Yes.
get the information out there.
Yes, exactly that. So, but then when it comes to like mechanics and stuff, it's like next to non-existent. And it was highlighted to me, especially when this one social media group put out some statistics about women in aviation, right? Like it says X% are pilots, X% are air traffic controllers, et cetera, et cetera. And for the most part, those numbers were going up, which was great. They're not a lot, but they're going up. And then it comes to a slide where it talks about aircraft mechanics, women aircraft mechanics, and it was maybe like a 0.02 increase in a 3 year span. It only went up probably like 0.1% in a 3 year span. I'm like, well, I mean, I guess, but I should be happy that it went up at all. But
Right. Yeah, I guess be happy it went up at all, despite literally no one talking about it,
yeah,
other than a select few. And I get it, we're a niche part of the industry, but still, if you're, we're out there, uh, men, women alike. We're out there working. We're all trying to promote each other for the most part, and want to see each other succeed and win. However, again, our voices are only so loud in the megaphone. When these larger corporations, again, if you're pushing the aviation narrative, push all facets of it. Advertise for the maintenance side as you do for the flight op side.
yes, exactly that point. And another example of it is, say, when certain groups of aviation specialists go on strike, right? Um, when certain groups go on strike, their compensation to end the strike is X, Y, and Z. But when, say, it's mechanics when they go on strike, if they even go on strike at all, their compensation or their, hey, let's negotiate parameter is significantly lower. And I think a lot of that has to do with what MVP said, is like, it's that voice. It's not there. Or when it's when there are voices, it's very differentiating. They're very different from each other. You have some that say, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, some say this, others say that, and it's not united. It's not the same voice. And sometimes how I feel that, especially with mechanics, is we kind of defeat ourselves in that respect. Like, you have some individuals, us included, we were there at one point in time too, where you just get, you do your best to voice it out. You do your best to really point out the problem, but everything colors along regardless of what you do or don't do. And so you kind of develop this defeatist mentality where, like, well, regardless of what I say or how I go about it, they're just going to color along anyway. So then you embed this defeat mentality in yourself, regardless of where you're at. And then you spread it. You spread it.
Well, I could say something, but what's the point? It'll just fall on deaf ears. And then you take that, and that spills over into the people next to you, and then the people next to them, and so on and so forth until you end up with, just like you said, aircrew go on strike, and the maintainers are still in the hangar working, too tired to go on strike in many cases. Or here's one from my own experience. We were working internationally, and we were putting in a lot more time as maintenance than the aircrew were putting in.
Mm-hmm.
And but the aircrew, they took a stance, and they all received pay increases, as well as tens of thousands of dollars in bonuses. Retention bonuses is what it was called. And then they were all like smiling, high fiving, all happy and stuff. Good for them, it worked. And so the maintenance group, everybody got together and was kind of like, hey, that looks pretty nice. Could we get something like that since we're doing all this time? And they're like, and I'm going to take all the legal terms out of this. And basically what they told us was, you should just be thankful you have a job.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's how it's treated. That's how you get into that defeatist mentality, is you're like, well, it's not fair. And I get it. Life's not fair. And I get the pilots have a stressful job flying these birds to the air, but it's also stressful trying to work to very strict standards in continually condensed time frames,
mm-hmm.
to make sure that those birds are safe to fly. And I got to tell you, there's no feeling in the world like watching something that you just worked the last 3 days on take off, and then you hear RTB. You hear the RTB call, and you watch them do a lap around the field and land. You're like, oh my God, what happened? You know what I mean? Am I in trouble? What broke? And all that said, regardless of pay, we should all do the best job of our to our abilities. However, I get it. Life's expensive. Everything is continually on the climb, and with it, so should our pay. Especially if one side of the aviation house is receiving those bonuses and retention, pay increases and all that kind of stuff. It should be across the board, because who's going to fly if nobody's working on it? And unfortunately, I think we've talked about this before. I think as maintainers, we haven't figured out that united stance yet.
Right.
Aircrew have figured that out, and maintainers, we haven't. And I think it's because we're a bit of a different breed mindset, where we pride ourselves on the, man, it sucks, but let's get through it. And let's get through it together. So we band together on the work side of it, right? We all embrace the suck together and put out immaculate work and make things better than they were. But we don't do that when it comes to our pay, our benefits, our quality of life. We band together to embrace the suck. Now, here's what I'll say. Maintainers are the people you want in a foxhole with you. Those kind of people, right? But you're not going to be getting stars and bars on your lapels either.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this reminds me of a listener comment, actually a listener / guest at one time. His name was Brent from Total Aviation. He goes, "We have just as much power to negotiate for our quality of life as anyone else does. The problem is, as you said, is that united voice isn't the same, right?" And this kind of goes back to, again, reiterate what you were saying, that you have this voice, these different voices that have their own varying opinions, and they just kind of learn to just deal with it, just suck it up and deal with it. And this kind of has like this embedded culture where, a good phrase that comes to mind is when someone would say like, "Well, you're not actually licensed to be a professional. You just have a license to learn." And which is true. It is very true that just having an A&P certificate or just being a certified mechanic is just really a license to learn. However, it does take a while. It does take quite a bit to get there. And for the amount of work that you're putting in, it's not that far off from what other specialists within the aviation community have to do. Because they have to take tests, they have to maintain hours, they have to continually do the job to rate the pay.
Yeah, and I don't have autopilot to do my job.
Yeah.
Yet. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think that's across the board for all trades, regardless, not just aviation, but all trades. It's like we're kind of losing this sense of importance of just how vital, like the trades are. I was going to say industrial arts, but
I think it's been beaten into us that we as maintainers are a dime a dozen. We're not.
Yeah, we're not.
I was sitting in meetings today talking about staffing and all that kind of stuff, and we're at a shortage of qualified. We're not at a shortage of maintainers. We're in a shortage of experienced maintainers. And I said, well, it's because, your pay or the way you treat experienced maintainers to stay isn't there. And nobody wants to hear that. They said, no, I think it's because of what we title them. We title them just as maintainers. I think if we change them to craft workers, that'll be more enticing. I said, well, does that change the pay band? No. Well, it's just like the smoke and mirrors thing. Craft worker, wow, that sounds illustrious.
Yeah,
Then you get in, you're like, oh, it's the standard job. Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. This triggered two core memories in mine since you said that. The first one was almost to a T what your meeting was about, but this was like 8 years ago. 8 years ago. Anyway, and it was exactly a meeting like this, or like, as you were saying, it's with all these top level management dudes. But the argument was, or the issue was like, how do we get? We were losing like experienced mechanics left and right, and then they were like, well, we're gonna lose these guys regardless. So how do we incentivize these newer dudes to want to get qualified and become experienced mechanics, right? And they were like coming up with all kinds of silly incentives, like give them preferred parking, give them longer lunch breaks, stuff like that, right? Everything besides the stuff that they want, right?
And don't get me wrong, a longer lunch break, but don't make my day longer.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I said, right? So like they were going around the room asking for all kinds of ideas, and they looked me in the face and they say, well, Sixer, you kind of look like you have something to say. And I said, no, I don't. Like, so, and it's pretty much like, they pretty much said it in the effect like, why you mean mugging me? You should be praising the ground I walk on, kind of thing. And they were really pressing me for an answer. Like, no, we want to hear your input on this. I'm like, and I said flat out, like, well, if you want my input, then, or what's the point of having my input when you're not really going to listen to what I have to say? And if you really want me to say what I want, what's on my mind, you might want to tell some of these guys here to leave, because some feelings are going to get hurt, you know? and you know, of course, you know, like when people hear that, like, I'm a grown ass person, like my feelings don't get hurt. I'm freaking, I'm as impervious as steel and all this and that, right?
Yo, bet, okay,
right. And so, yeah, it's exactly what I said.
Challenge accepted. I got it.
Yeah, okay, bet, got you. Let's put it down. The reason why it was almost verbatim to what you said, right? Like the reason why people don't want to get their experience and get their qualifications and be better at their job is because they know how you treat them. Like, look at the ones that are doing the job now, the ones that are experienced. They're running ragged. They're getting burned out. They're getting treated like crap. They're the first ones on the list to do weekend work. They're the first ones on the list to stay late. All kinds of stuff.
And honestly, it's just a meat grinder. But you do see your few senior mechs out there, and like you said, they are getting run ragged. And honestly, the only thing keeping them driving is love of job and mission, right? They enjoy what they're doing. They enjoy the mission they're supporting. But I'm here to tell you now that will fade over time.
Yes,
because that is the main driving force keeping you going, with the subconscious text of, if I continue to do this, my efforts will be rewarded.
Yes.
And in some places, yes, they are. In other places, many places, no, they're not. And the reward is additional tasks and duties.
Yes. And that's exactly what I said. And I also said to the effect that the younger and less experienced dudes, they see that and they're like, I don't want to go through that. I'll just stay young, dumb, and happy the entire time I'm here, until I gain enough seniority where I can go somewhere else and negotiate a higher step or a higher pay or whatever, so I can do the same level of shit for higher pay.
Right. Or you have to work yourself out of a maintainer altogether. You have to work yourself into different roles where you might not put hands on the aircraft anymore. You might have to go to supply chain to get the promotion and pay, or you might have to go to something, you might have to go to truck maintenance. I'll use the military side. You might have to go from the flight line to the motor pool type thing.
Yeah.
Just to get away from it, to take that lateral out so you can move up.
Yep.
And one thing, I kind of brought up in these meetings, but the one thing I said was, hey, there needs to be some sort of career path or progression tree here for these guys.
Yes.
And they said, well, yeah, they work hard, then they can step into the supervisor role, then they can work into the program manager role. And I said, okay, there's 105 mechanics on this program. I said, you have 13 supervisors, 2 managers, two DOMs essentially.
Yep.
I was like, beyond that, there's no growth. And those guys in the supervisory positions or the DOM positions aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So the only thing you can offer these people, these maintainers, is better quality of life and pay.
Mm-hmm.
So figure that out. Increase the pay bands, widen the pay bands. And in some instances that's happened, but they don't use it to the extent, we've widened the pay band. Okay, let me put this guy through a promotion. Well, then HR comes back and says, we've did a cost benefit analysis or an industry cost, report type deal. And we're not going to give him a 10% pay increase, but we'll give him a 4.2. Why?
Yeah.
Like that's not enough to make him or her, but make them go, wow, that was really nice. No, and it's almost like, so I worked 2,000 hours of overtime this past year, and I rate a 4.2. Oh, I mean, come on, you should be happy. That's the highest anybody got. That's that's worse. You shouldn't have told me that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of other people that bust their butt along with me, and I rate a 4.2% increase.
Yeah.
When you widen the pay bands, like why can't it be, a substantial jump in pay? Make it worth their while. Or send them to trainings, right? Hey, you've done good. Hey, we're going to send you out to this engine school for 2 weeks, or we're going to do this initiative. Hey guys, I know, we don't have any mods going on. We don't have any depot level maintenance or whatever. Right now it's just turn and burns and daily checks and weekly checks and just standard stuff. And when those times come, hey guys, show up. If they bang all their workout in the first 5 hours, dip, get on out of here. Do a rotational thing. Hey, at least 3 of you got to stay in case we need to shuffle some things around or whatever, or we need people to go and do a last minute engine run out at the Hammerhead or something. Right. And then the next day, those 3 who stayed the day before are going home early, and 3 others will stay. But work it that way, where there's some incentive. Yes. Like, hey, I got all my work done, so instead of pushing a broom the rest of the day, I can just get out of here. And then when those depot level times come, it's not such a travesty for people working 12 plus hours a day. Because like, hey, I got some downtime, but now it's time to really work. Instead, what you do is make them be there 12 hours a day with maybe only 5 to 6 hours worth of work, and the rest of the time it's pushing brooms and dusting off desks. And then, now it's heavy mod period. Now it's 12 solid hours of grinding work. There has to be a balance, and people, that's the fastest way to burn people out. And so they get to the point, the mindset of, why work any harder or do any better than what I'm doing? It means nothing. Yes. It means nothing. As long as that paycheck clears every 2 weeks, whatever. If I have to be here 12 hours every day, regardless of the workload, whatever. And that's where I came into that statement years ago. Can only last 12 hours.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I remember a couple episodes ago, we mentioned a quote where reliance on heroic actions is just a sign of poor management, right? And it's true. With that said, I did have some perspective, that sometimes, those heroic actions really do inspire people. And it does. It absolutely does, right? But people can't be Superman all the time, we run out of gas, and when we have those gas and go kind of initiatives where we feel great, we're awesome, we understand the criticality of the objective, so we do everything possible to make it happen. If we just kept on going with that and not have some kind of united voice as to, hey, this will come at a price one way or another, right? Then all that's doing is just enabling that mindset, right? From the people who make those decisions to the ones who just kind of become Superman every single time they show up to work. For those that are, sorry,
go ahead. Sorry,
I was gonna say, for those that do that, kudos to you, man. You are the reasons why we love doing what we do, because we always see that one person, whoever they are, that's just he or she just makes it happen, regardless of how things go about. It's raining, sleeting, snowing, and fireballs in the sky, and they're like, just another great day at work. I appreciate your mindset, and I appreciate the inspiration you give. I mean, but that only runs so far. Even the super people burn out, right? If they don't burn out at work, they're gonna burn out somewhere else, and that's where it's really gonna take a toll on things. But again, when we rely on those superhero-like efforts, and that's going to be your gas and go moment, it enables a lot of that negativity from the people who make these decisions. And especially when they know that there's going to be no fault found in their or no consequences in their decisions. And we see on the opposite side with, say, for instance, pilots, when they experience those things, and this is where I'm really grateful for them to do this, is when bullshit gets put on them, they pump the brakes quick. They're like, absolutely not. not only we're not going to fly your plane, I'm not going to fly your plane ever again until I get X, Y, and Z. And they'll stand on that too. They'll die on that hill, which is fantastic, you know, because it kind of gives us the blueprint of how you want to set your terms, right? Maybe not so much the compensation, because, you know, pilots have a certain level of stress that only they can deal with. Likewise with air traffic controllers and so forth. But it really kind of lays it down the line. Like, this is how you win an argument. You know, you have objective facts, you have a united voice, you appeal to the people that need to hear it. And you know, maybe some public backing and a couple of social media posts, you know. I'm just being real. You know, like that kind of spurs the moment. Like, you know what? This needs to get addressed. And we sadly find that lacking with mechs, and not just from the mechs who are currently in, but for the people that are trying to get people in, right? Like the recruiting efforts is not that strong for mechanics, and when it is, it's like a very quiet voice. And when you start talking incentives or you start talking about reasons to do the job, it's kind of like this very quiet under the table whisper thing, you know, like yeah, we'll do everything and we do anything and everything to get you to where you need to be. And then under the table is like, you're going to be working 18-hour shifts for the next 5 years of your life. Just saying that much, you know. So something to that effect.
Right.
What I am grateful for is that there are more and more mechanics voicing up about things, not just us. And in all different outlets, like newspapers, magazines, social media, at work, in unions, and whatever the case may be. Like, they're being more and more vocal about it, which is fantastic. Because and I feel that we're kind of at this over the hump moment where we're climbing up that roller coaster hill. We're not at the peak yet, but we're getting there, where more and more people are starting to band together about what's important to them. And they're not only just banding together, but they're having a uniform voice in the matter. You know what I mean? So,
right.
So
one thing I would like to see the executives or the corporate office stop doing is this. And this is taken right from a meeting I was in earlier today. Hey, what are we, you know, the question was asked, what are we doing with the out of cycle promotion period here, right? Mm-hmm. Now is the time we usually submit our people for out of cycles, this and that. Oh, we're not doing this year. Why not? Well, with the realignment of the two different business units, you know, we're just waiting to see how everything hashes out. Okay, so what am I supposed to do for my people that didn't, you know, that I couldn't get through the normal channels at the end of the year? So that's why we have this out of cycle period, you know, to get them to what they deserve and what they've earned. And they said, look, the only way we're going to entertain that is you have to come to me. They have to come to you with a offer letter in hand, and then you bring that directly to me, and then we'll determine if they're critical enough that we're willing to match or beat that pay, but that's the only way we're doing it. We're not.
Wow.
And yeah, and you're kind of like, okay, so what am I supposed to tell? Well, you just keep saying motivational words. Now they're tired of that, homie. And I'm tired of it, to be honest. You know, I'm out of motivational words. I have a limited vocabulary. I've even pulled out Webster's and pulled up. I searched motivational words online, and I've used them all. And people are tired of hearing it because it's just words at this point. Mm-hmm. Actions speak louder than the words. We all heard of that? I think so. So that has to stop. I get budgets exist and limits and this and that, but why does it have to come to the person saying, hey, I'm taking a position somewhere else? Well, because what if they're just bluffing? We're going to give them money when they might just be bluffing, or when they really don't deserve it? No, I'm telling you they deserve it. Their actions have shown they deserve it. I'm telling you, and you're telling me no. Yeah, well, you know, we don't want to spend money unless we don't have to. So we'd like to. Well, I can tell you how most people are, and I am 100% in this way. if I have gone through the effort to seek out a new job, I've gone through the multitude of interviews, I've made it through those multitude of interviews, and this other company is offering me more money, better work-life balance, better benefits, whatever better is in your instance. But they're just offering better, and they've extended the offer to me, and I bring it to you. Even if you counter and match, even if you counter and match it, or maybe even offer just a little bit more, I'm probably going to decline it, your retention pay, and go with the other place. Why did it take me coming all the way to quitting for you to do this? Where was this money before? Mm-hmm. You're telling me you could do this for me the whole time? So in many instances, even when it comes down to it, people are like, well, come on, we're matching it. Don't you want to stay? No, because I know what this bullshit is here. I'm sure there's bullshit over there, but I don't know what it is yet. And that'll take me a year or so to figure that out. Mm-hmm. You know, that kind of stuff needs to just exist. And I'm sure I'm ignorant in the corporate realm enough to know there's probably a semi-valid reason why, but it shouldn't come to the point of somebody quitting for you to offer them what they've earned.
Yes,
already. And it's that what do they call it? Post something capitalism, post or late something capitalism. Anyways, Adam Savage from Mythbusters says it all the time. I can't remember what it is. It's called. It's like late stage capitalism or whatever. It's essentially these businesses, we're gonna operate on how much work can I get out of you with paying you the least amount that I can. Mm-hmm. And it's only until you threaten to you're gonna leave. Well, here we'll give you this to stay. Why? So now you can work me in the dirt harder because like, well, we gave you what you want. You're gonna hold it over my head. Yes. Or at least most places hold it over your head. Like, we gave you what you want. Now work harder and faster. Right. You know, it's like that's not the way it's supposed to be.
I agree. I fully agree. And you're absolutely right. And how a lot of this stuff changes or how a lot of this stuff gets put in motion to change is, again, with that whole united front, that united voice, that uniform voice, right? And then also like highlighting the criticality and the essential nature of the job, right? We all have seen the push from various organizations, from various initiatives, from various events, just how one field within the industry, if they were to just stop or not do as much, then a lot of the stuff comes to a screeching halt. And I feel that got communicated very well from these organizations, events, and so forth. But for other stuff, especially for mechanics, it's not that loud, if at all, right? And a good example is the aircraft or the aerospace maintenance competition. It's probably like the single largest, if not the actual largest, aircraft maintenance event in the United States. And it has a big pool of other mechanics from different countries coming in. Huge, right? The first time I've heard of the aircraft or the aerospace maintenance competition was 3 years ago. That was the first time ever in my entire existence that I've heard of it. And not so much just heard of it, but actually what it does. And it took like other aircraft maintenance specialists who've been to the events and other competitors to actually clue me in as to why that's a thing or how it became a thing. And so, but then you have like other organizations that rarely, if ever, push these things, and they have people in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that one's the crazy part to me. Yeah. Is that you have people there competing wearing your company logo, and you're not going to promote everything you can because what was the one gentleman we had on where it's basically okay, we'll do this, but we want it. We demand X amount of recruits out of it, essentially. You know?
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. No, like if we go there and do good or put our name up on the board and we're interacting with people and we're showing how professional we are and we're talking up your business, like it's going to generate interest on its own. You know, like
Yeah.
You can't go into this and put these restrictions on it. Like, okay, well, we'll only go to this competition or support this, but you have to give this in return. You know what? Never mind. To hell with your competition then. Like, don't even pay me. Don't even pay for it.
And that kind of goes back to that defeatist mentality, like I said, right? But on the flip side of that, when they say air show, right? They seeing machines, they're seeing things flying, they seeing tricks and flips, and like trucks that blow like 5,000 gallons of jet fuel in like 5 seconds or something like that. That's not true, but you know what I mean. Like they have like Optimus Prime like shooting like freaking 70-foot flames and stuff. Like they'll shell out for those, but like stuff that actually demonstrate a mastery of skill in a trade. Oh, that's peasant games. You know what I mean? That's like a bunch of hooligans throwing a log or like mud wrestling or whatever the hell. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like what they classify that as, or at least that's the impression.
Right. You want that to be a recruiting event? Okay, send your execs and your recruiters to walk around and judge the competitions and watch these competitors, and then after they're done competing, whoever did well or who you like, approach them and say, hey, I'd like to talk to you about some opportunities where we're at. If you're happy where you're at, great. But if you're interested in hearing about some different opportunities, I'd love to take a minute of your time. Okay, do that, but don't demand that people going to compete, hey, while you're competing, you also have to get us 3 new hires in this instance. What? I'm not going there for that.
Yeah. Very much so, man. I mean, there was more words to that, and there was a little nuance, but yeah, that's more or less what they're saying. Like, we want a higher return on investment from your end than what we're putting in. Like, okay.
Me doing well in the competition is showing how well you're doing on your end. That shows that we have a good training regimen. We have a good safe maintenance practices. We operate to the highest level. We take people of minimal or no skill and make them high performing individuals. That's what sells it.
I agree. I fully agree. And speaking of that, so the results for the AMC have been released, and that said in the gentleman that we did have that MVP was alluding to, their team actually won a top category in the event. So, and that's huge, man. And even more so, like one teams that were not even from the U.S., I think it was Brazil, I think it was, won a category in themselves as well. I'm like, see, look at this, man. Like, this is huge international stuff, right? But there's like next to no like noise about it, right? But I will hear stuff galore about an air show on a military base. Just saying. I'm just saying. So, long story short, on that side of the house, like, if we're gonna advertise aviation as a whole or any industry as a whole, let's look at all facets of the spectrum, not just the one that get the high money pulls. I mean, yes, that's cool and all, but not everyone can be a Navy SEAL, man. I'm sorry. You're talking about maybe 1% of a 0.5%. So,
right, not everybody born is going to be a neurosurgeon. We do need the trades in there to keep the foundations of society running.
Yes.
And that includes the aviation maintenance, right?
Absolutely.
All these people flying around the globe, those things aren't fixing themselves on hopes and prayers. We don't have our R2D2s yet, right. out there on the wing while we're flying, trying to fix it.
Ooh, that reminds me. I do want to quote this one instructor that we saw at the High Healy Expo, or the now forever gone High Healy, now known as Verticon. Anyways, he said, "Hope is not a strategy," and straight up blew my mind. And it's true. Hope is not a strategy. If hope is your only strategy, you're strategizing to fail. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Just accept defeat now.
Right. Any final words on anything at all from this, Mr. MVP?
Let's figure out how we can unite a little bit better as a industry here, or at least one side of the industry, and do what we can to better our lives. I'm not saying we're all going to become millionaires and all that stuff, but if we can at least be considered a specialized industry, that would be That would be excellent. A specialized trade, if you will.
I agree. I fully agree. And how that helps is with you guys sharing this episode for one, and then sharing your experiences with people. Not just the very rosy stuff, but share some of the bad stuff. Eventually, like, yeah, it'll probably discourage a couple of people about wanting to join an industry, but it at least gives them a sense of mind. It's like, you know what? That's not right.
What? Here's what I'll say to that. And sorry to cut you off. Here's what I'll say to that. Recently, I applied to a different position, and I knew the hiring manager. We have a good working relationship, and that individual said, "Hey, let's take 15 minutes here and talk about this position." Great. I was all excited, this and that. And why this individual wanted to talk to me was because he goes, "Hey, we've had discussions in the past, and you've expressed that you want your career to go in this particular direction." I said, "That's true." He goes, "This position that I'm hiring for is not that. This will take your career in this direction. And while it's not impossible to reverse that, it becomes increasingly difficult because now you've become a subject matter expert in this one particular area. Like, that's going to be your only area of focus. You're not going to have a broad view of things or a broad handle on things or work on a broad multitude of different things. You're going to be on this one particular area, and that's going to be your sole focus." And he goes, "And I want to tell you that because I don't think it's what you want to do. And I wanted to give you a heads up because I don't want you to derail your career plan you have for yourself by accepting this." And I was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for explaining that to me." So it's good that we do talk about the bad side of things, because this is the hiring manager saying, "Look, this job is not going to be rainbows and sunshine. This isn't what you're looking for you specifically,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it's good we have these conversations, the good, bad, and the ugly, because somebody, you read a title and you go, yeah, that's what I'm after. But as I alluded to earlier in those meetings, corporate's just changing titles just to make it sound better.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean the job's better or what you want. So have those conversations. Reach out to the hiring manager. If you find a job you're interested in, reach out to that hiring manager. Say, "Hey, if you got, I'm interested in this position. I think my current skills would really benefit you, and I think I would learn a multitude of other things to not only help better myself and the team, but also the company." And sit down and talk with them. For me, I was like, "Man, this is going to be great. We're going to talk about the job and how they also think I'm a good fit for the position." Quite the opposite conversation I went into, but I'm glad it happened because it saved me from wasting my time and that hiring manager's time. For me getting into that role and then 6 months later going, "Oh my God, I hate this," and
Yep.
I want to go do something else. So now I'm telling him, "Hey, I'm looking for another gig," and he's going, "Damn it, now I got to hire somebody else again and start this whole thing over." So that's where I think it's great to have those conversations with people. Said, "Hey, does anybody have any experience with this?" "Yeah, I worked that job." "What was it like?" "Well, I did this, and that. It wasn't really what I wanted to do, and here's why." And like me, you could go, "Oh, yeah, I guess I don't want to do that." And mind you, the pay was substantially more than what I make now. But I chose not to progress forward with it because though the pay was good, I knew I wasn't going to enjoy my time in that position. Right? So we talk about pay a lot, right? We all need money to pay bills and live. But at what cost? What's it worth to you?
Yes.
Is it worth sitting in your car in the parking lot with a barrel in your mouth every morning? I don't know. I don't think so.
Absolutely.
That's a very strong. Sorry, everybody. That was a dark suicide joke there, but I mean, that's kind of the reality of it,
Mm-hmm.
Like when Six and I used to sit in the parking lot and stare at each other. "You go first." "No, you go in first." "I'm not going in first." You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We actually got a comic about that. How fancy that. but you're absolutely right. And again, like for everyone, share your experiences, share your stories. Go on social media, share what you guys do. Make people enthusiastic or non-enthusiastic about the trade. And the reason why is because you will find the ones who would want to be there, right? And you also screen out the ones who don't. Like, I don't want to roll around in grime and all that stuff. Cool. Then don't, right? Or you might unknowingly hype somebody up to want to do the job. Like some of the people who are very good and actually enthusiastic about aviation, for instance, did not want to do it in the first place, right? That wasn't their first choice. It wasn't mine. I'll say that much, but I love it. So have these conversations, share your stories, share your experiences, go on social media, create an account, something, right?
Ask questions. That's all I can tell you. Reach out to us and ask questions. And if we don't know the answer, we'll try to point you in the direction of somebody who does. You know?
Absolutely. But hey, let us know what you guys think. What sort of things do you agree with, don't agree with? Some stuff we should add, how we should go about this, uniting our voices or increasing the visibility of aircraft mechanics in all facets of trade shows, air shows, competitions, events, etc. Let us know in our comments, our social media, our email, our website, whichever way is easiest for you. The absolute best way to get a hold of us, have conversations like this, is on our Discord channel via our Patreon. Every bit of your contribution helps keep the lights on, and keeps us making episodes like this for you guys. Hey, on that note, we appreciate you all for listening, and we'll see you all on the next one. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
We would like to take this time to thank our patrons for supporting our show and allowing us to make episodes, maintain our gear, and create merch for all of our listeners. With special thanks to Erica Lamont, Chris Hawkins, Eric Shaw, Dan Schubert, Ryan Frushauer, Kyle Keir, Mike Sherwood, Caleb Stockhill, and Jennifer Brofer. Thank you all so much for your support and patronage. If you like our show, please support us on Patreon. You'll receive awesome perks like access to our private Discord, discounts and early access to our merch, first glimpse of our comics and other projects, and so much more. You can further support us and show off your prowess as an aircraft specialist by visiting our shop at cancelformaintenance.com. If you like classy or rugged watches, visit our affiliate Rockwell Time at rockwelltime.com. Use the code CX, the number 4MX to save 10% off your total order. If you have suggestions for the show or you'd like to be a guest on the show, send us a line on our contact us section at cancelformaintenance.com, and we'll do what we can to get both your ideas and yourself on the show. Please support us on social media like Facebook at Cancel for Maintenance, Instagram at CANX for Maintenance Podcast, or Twitter at CXMX Podcast. Please check out our new comic series on the Tapas app. Like, share, subscribe, and comment on our comics. Let us know what you think. Thank you all so much for your support and listenership, and we will catch you all next time.